What's up, everybody? Ron McGee back here, sitting down with John Lewis and John Gribbin from the lab. This topic we're going to discuss is this past winter, so that would be 2019/2020 winter throwing program these guys offered at the lab. So first, guys, thanks for jumping back on. The first question I have for you is: these programs, are they open to the public, teams, individuals, or even school programs, whether it be college or high school?
Yeah, so our programs are open to the public. So we work with various travel teams around the Union County area. We work with kids ages 9 all the way through pro ball. So if you saw our last video, we had a bunch of pro ball guys that have come in to get their work in when they're in the off season. We have college guys that come in during their off season to throw with us, and then we have kids 8 through senior year of high school that come in. We also have people that we do remote training with, so we'll do that online. So we'll send them a program online. Usually it happens, they'll DM us on Twitter or Instagram, and then we'll go from there. But it's good when people can come into our facility because we have a strength and conditioning coach that we can get them with as well. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
With that being said, kind of take us through how the program runs. First and foremost, is it a scheduled time, or is it like, I know you mentioned minor leaguers come in? Is that kind of you guys give them a program to follow and kind of just checkpoints with you guys throughout the process?
Yeah, so it really depends on the program we're running and the type of kid we're working with. So this winter we ran a bunch of different programs. So we worked with a couple teams, and we scheduled with their coaches a time that they could come in with their teams, and we would throw with them based on either what we saw and we thought they needed, or what their coach asked us and what he thought they needed. On top of that, we ran a velocity program that showed actually ridiculous results. We were extremely impressed with it, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But we had over 50 kids in that, ages 9 through 18, and they were from all over the place. So we had a couple kids from, one travel organization or another travel organization, different high schools. So it was good to get the whole group in. And again, when we get a college kid or a pro ball kid, we won't be so much on our schedule or our program. It'll be on their schedule and their program. We'll help them with their program. We'll make adjustments based on them. And I mean, we're in there all the time, so time is not an issue for us.
And we also offer Rapsodo evaluations. So, some guys, they just want to get their data. They can't afford a Rapsodo, or they don't know where to go. So if they reach out to us, we could set something up and get that for them and have them come in one day and get that information for them, and then kind of explain it to them all at the same time.
Do you guys take the Rapsodo on the road with you at all? So say a team wants you to come in, but then obviously financials might be tight and they can't rent out the space. Is it an option where they could come in? You guys would go to them and do the same evaluation that you would do in the facility?
Yeah, definitely. So that's glad you brought that up. That's another thing that we're offering out. So I mean, let's all be honest here. Rapsodo isn't cheap. We're lucky enough to have 2 of them. So we've had other facilities, other high school teams, and even some junior college teams reach out to us and ask us if we could bring the Rapsodo to them, or they could come to us, and then we'll have the kid throw on a Rapsodo, and then we'll do a breakdown for them. We'll put them on video, and we'll break down their mechanics for them, and then we'll also discuss, what the Rapsodo is showing. So we're extremely big on, showing everything to the kid. We don't want to tell a kid, hey, you need to do this, and then not explain why. And that's why Rapsodo is super big for us, because it gives us all the information, immediate feedback, and so does video. So video never lies, number never lie. So it's good that we have all that information because we can give it right to people instantly.
Last question about the kind of the details of the program. You mentioned before your classes in the facility. Just for any people listening that might be interested, is there a limit amount of kids that are in per class?
So it really depends on the class and the age group. So, like I said before, we had a velocity class with over 50 kids in it. We broke up each session to about 12 kids, trying to stay in their age group. We've also had travel teams, town travel teams, and also organizations come in. Depending on the age group, we'll have 10, we'll have 8, we'll have 5. Obviously, based on the age and based on the skill level, we'll determine, how many kids we'll have in at a time and what we'll work on with the kids.
And just a last follow-up with that, is there a certain amount of instructors that are in every class, or is that dependent also on the amount of kids that are in per class?
Yeah, so that's usually based on the number of kids in the class, but we try to have at least 2 for every single session. The more eyes on, the better. For our velocity class, we had 12 kids, and we had 4 instructors, sometimes 5 instructors. Same thing with our other lower level classes that were more based on just mechanical adjustments and stuff like that. We would have the exact same instructors. Our instructors are current college coaches, former college coaches, current and former high school coaches at the varsity level, and then John Lewis, who's one of our main guys as well, and he actually owns the facility that we work out of. He was a Stony Brook pitching coach, played for Stony Brook, and got drafted by the Marlins. So, we have all levels, and we also have some of our pro guys and our D1 pitchers come back and help out as well. So you have players, coaches at all levels helping out.
And pretty cool, as you discussed, John, talk about yourself a little bit. I know you got certified by Driveline over the winter, and I think you're working on a couple other certifications this summer. So definitely some good instructors there at the lab that people will be working with. So first, let's take us through a daily session of a class in your program. If I'm a brand new student, I walk in, what am I getting?
Kind of a rundown of our session is we always start with a full body warm up. We want to make sure that our body is ready to go, that we're fully stretched out. We do some dynamic movements. This warm up was drawn up by a professional strength and conditioning coach that we work with. So, we make sure that our kids are from all ages are completely ready to, before we touch a baseball, before we touch anything, that our bodies are fully warmed up. After that, we break off into our J-band area. So we use the Jaeger J-bands, and we have a program where we go through different exercises. And for me, I use them in my career. It's something where you can learn, not only are you strengthening your arm, but you're also learning to control your body. You're learning to control movements with your arm and your body. So, for us, that's very important. We do that with all our ages. We introduce the younger kids to it. For their bands, they'll be a little less resistant, and the older kids will be a little more resistant to be a little stronger. Once we are done with that, we'll break off into a plyo ball routine, and those are adjusted for each kid and each age group. So for the younger kids, it's very basic. It's light balls, just kind of teaching them the movements, teaching them what they're doing, making sure they're doing it right. The older guys who have done it for a while, it's a little more intense. They're getting really more into it. But everything we do with that, we're really focusing on doing it correctly, not doing it where they're not using their body and their arm's not in the right place. We don't want any injuries. The whole point of that is to strengthen the arm and help the kids out. Once we're done with that, then that's when we start picking up a baseball. We get into our throw-in routine. Again, it's adjusted for the age groups. Certain ages will throw more, certain ages will throw a little less, but we definitely want to introduce them and let them start to learn that it's okay to push yourself and to incorporate long toss and incorporate, again, everything we do using your body to throw a baseball. We don't just have them run and throw and their arm leads their body. We make sure the body does all the work and the arm just kind of follows and goes along for the ride. So that's pretty much just our warm up, our getting ready. And then throughout whatever the class is after that, it could be working on pitching stuff. It could be bullpens. It could be working on the mental side of the game. It could be pickoffs. There's so many other things that we could get into. But that's pretty much our daily warm up. And that usually takes about 40 minutes. That's how much we really want them to learn that pitching is a routine and there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, and just to add on to that real quick is again, I know we've talked about on Instagram and Twitter, but that's a great source of to see what we're doing. So, I mean, we're not going to hide anything. We put everything out that we do with our kids. So, like John was talking about, our long tossing, our J bands, our plyos, some of the med ball routines we use, our bullpens, our Rapsodo, basically everything we do, we put it out there for people to see. So, if you guys are wondering what it looks like, what our area looks like, just go on Instagram, go on Twitter, and check out some of our pictures and videos.
Okay, so the program lasted about 7 or 8 weeks. You guys collected a lot of data, obviously, with the 50+ kids that you had in it. What was a common struggle that most kids I don't know if it's a common struggle throughout all ages, or if you want to break it down to certain ages, had common struggles that you could pass on that you guys noticed a trend over the data you collected?
I think the biggest struggle was the kids getting introduced to the workload. Even the older kids who weren't with us before and never done it before, a lot of them haven't thrown as much, where they've long tossed 3 days a week, where they've, gone through a 40-minute routine before they even started throwing a baseball, off a mound. So that was the biggest struggle, is kind of teaching kids what really goes into being a pitcher. And for the younger kids, it's a lot less of a level, but it's still a lot more than they're used to. And I think that's why we've had such good results, is because we do push the kids in a positive way. We do want them to get better, and we do tell them, you're gonna be sore. There's gonna be possibly a dead arm period. And as long as we, again, focus on long tossing right, using your body, doing the bands, doing our recovery. Every day that we do something, we finish with recovery. And we have a lot of our older kids going into working out right after and weight training. So everything we do is structured. Everything we do has a plan. So that's for me the biggest struggle, is just having the kids learn that their arm, there's going to be stress on it, and it's going to take time to build that arm strength. And the first few weeks, sometimes we'll have kids that they get a little nervous, or they say their arm's sore, and then by the end, we've had nothing but success. We've had no injuries so far. We've had everybody say that their arms feel great. So it's kind of, we tell the kids, it's like if you're squatting, if you just randomly squat a lot, you're going to be sore. But if you start to continue to push yourself and build a routine for your legs, eventually you're not going to be sore. So it's the same thing with our arms, and the same thing with building the routine.
I think that's great. I think it's almost like you walk in uneducated, and then by the time you leave, you educate yourself on your body and how it's supposed to feel after you throw. And I think that's a big thing, especially for the younger ages and the high school ages, to know, all right, I just pitched a game. My body's supposed to be sore. This is what is expected, not, oh no, let's raise the red flag. So you guys touched on a little bit before. You guys use various tools. I know you mentioned the bands before and some other stuff. So you just break us down what someone, a pitcher or a parent, might see you guys frequently using in one of your classes, what tools and why you would use them.
Yeah, so like John mentioned before, we use Jaeger bands. We'll use them to warm up and to recover. We have spots all on the wall, hooks drilled into the wall that guys can hook their bands to. We have a huge plyo wall in our lab that kids will use plyo balls with. Again, that's to warm up, to recover. It builds arm strength. We have a Rapsodo that, like I said earlier, it'll pick up everything that comes with a pitch, spit out instant feedback. We have multiple radar guns with radar screens that are right behind the pitching mound so that kids can see their velocities right away. We have a weight room that is next to our lab that, like John said earlier, high school kids will usually go and lift after. We're also purchasing stim machines. So those are machines that you put on your arm once you're done. That'll help muscle relaxation. Shoulder tubes. A lot of the stuff that we use is for recovery and for warming up. Because like John said, we want to make sure that our arms are in tip-top shape before we even pick up a baseball.
So if you guys, were to give advice for pitchers on when to do a throwing program, when to join your program, is it my fall season ended in October, let's hop right into it in November, or is it more structured? If I'm a high school kid getting ready for high school season, is there a certain time frame that I should be looking to kind of incorporate this, or is it two separate? I could do a drill, a class, a different style class in the early winters compared to the late winter.
Yeah, I mean, we try to structure our classes to get kids ready for seasons. So we definitely also stress that kids should take off time and let their arm rest. So, my thing is after a season ends, I always say you should take off 2 to 3 weeks, if not a month. And then a month or 2 months going into another season is when you should start building up a program. So for us, the winter's big because everyone's pretty much off for the winter, all the levels. So that's when the facility is the most packed, and that's when we do our velocity classes and our throwing classes. But for guys that are in season or are in a college season, little guys, older guys, whatever age you are, there's definitely classes that throughout the year, whether they just want to work on some stuff, fine tune stuff, or if maybe you don't have a routine at whatever high school or travel organization you're in, you come to us and we could build that around you. The biggest thing, and from our interviews, everyone's a little different. Everyone has different needs. Their body's built differently. So we do our best to incorporate a routine around you. So the winter would be the biggest for, everyone kind of gets a 2 month, a month and a half program where we want to make sure when you show up to whether it's college or high school that you're ready to go. You're at your best shape, your arms ready. That's our goal. And then other parts of the year, we're always there, as Coach Gribbin said. We're always there to help. We're always there to maintain. If guys want routines built in, we do that.
Yeah, I mean, I could just speak from experience. You guys are great guys, and I know you guys, like you mentioned before, you're even answering out and giving some tips on your own time on direct messages on the various social media stuff. So anyone that has questions, I highly recommend reaching out to these guys and getting their feedback. So let's talk. We talked about the program, now the results of the program. Coach Gribbin kind of foreshadowed a little bit earlier about some good results. So let's get into what results you saw, what age groups were the most impressive, what was your highest, lowest jump, and all that good stuff.
So, like I said before, we were actually shocked by the results that we got. We know we've done it before. We did it the year before, so we know it works. But to this extent, was really exciting to see. So we had over 50 kids in our class. 96% of the kids went up in velo. That's a huge jump. Again, we had ages 9 all the way up to 18. So to see that jump was really great to see. Our high school kids were really exciting to see, obviously, because, they spin it a little faster and throw it a little harder than everybody else. So that was a little, good excitement. But, every single age group was extremely impressive. Some of the numbers that we have here, one of our 13-year-olds jumped 10 miles an hour. Another 13-year-old jumped 7, a 14-year-old jumped 7, a 15-year-old jumped 10. So we had some insane jumps, and it shows, one, their hard work, but also two, they didn't start with a good base, which is okay, which is why you come. But to then see the work that they put in, it was really, really rewarding to see those jumps.
Just a common question that I'm sure would come up that I know I'm curious to see the answer for. Is it, the older you are, is it harder to jump in velocity?
Yeah, so definitely. So usually our biggest jumps are at the younger ages. It's hard for our older guys to jump. Some of our guys were hitting 85 on test day. 7 weeks later, they were 86, and they were like, I only went up 1 mile an hour. We're like, you just went from 85 to 86. That's insane. And they don't understand because they hear another kid that's in the program that's 9 went up 10 miles an hour, and they're like, why am I not going up 10? It's usually the base that you start with, and younger guys usually start with, a much lower base. The skill level isn't there. The high school guys have been trained. They've been training themselves for a long time. So it's much, much harder. Otherwise, every single year you'd see Max Scherzer go out and jump 3 miles an hour and he'd be throwing 110 in 3 years. It just doesn't work like that. So the fact that we got a 96% clip that went up, and our high school guys went up too, our 15-year-olds, our 14-year-olds went up. It just shows that, one, that our kids put in the work, and two, that the program does work.
Just to piggyback off that, I think for me, the older the kids are, you really want to see their average, if we're talking velocity, go up. And that's where we had really good success where, if a kid was topping at 80 miles an hour, but, most of their fastballs were, let's say, 75, we were seeing where they were now at 78, 79. And they might only top at 81, but now their velocity is so much higher. It's great to hit a number every now and then, but if we could get you to consistently throw harder, that's great. And also, with off-speed pitches, if we could get you to consistently throw a tight, slider or a change-up that drops. Our job is to be consistent, and that's what's going to make a good ball player. So the jumps are great, but for older kids, like you're saying, the jumps might not be as big, but if we could get that average velocity or average spin rate up, then that's where we feel we've done our job.
Okay, yeah, that pretty much answered, or at least part of what was going to be my follow-up would be, what other things do you look to show that kids making progress besides just the top line number of velocity? So I guess I'll shift the question a little bit to, what would be your advice or suggestions to somebody that didn't go up, that 4% that, hey, maybe they made progress in another area. How would you explain that, or kind of, pick up? Because I'm sure that natural to be like, oh, my velocity didn't go up. Maybe say the same, or maybe even like you guys mentioned before about a kid could be experiencing dead on because he never threw this much, so his velocity might actually went down because his body's never thrown this much before. So what would you say to that 4% if you were as a kid in the 4% and didn't go up?
I think it's tough because the 4% that went up were some of our older kids, and I think that their base was there. They were some of our hardest throwers already, so it was hard for them to go up any higher. But the other thing that they can always check is spin rate, is how their ball's moving. There's always factors that'll influence that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 out of all the kids that didn't peak and go up at the end, but they were also doing the program before we started this program. They've been with us for a while, so when we did our test day, they were already hitting numbers that were so much higher than they've been in the past. So, that's kind of something where, as you're saying, yeah, now we want to focus on, all right, can you throw a second pitch for a strike consistently? Can you, change eye levels with your fastball? At some point, you're going to hit a point where, yeah, you still we get your average velocity up and your spin rate up. And I don't ever want to say that you're going to be maxed out, but at some point you're doing it, constantly. There's other things to work on. So just as you said, Mickey, you're just trying to now get the other part of pitching, to that same elite level as, wherever they're fastball.
All right, good stuff. Obviously this was the first winter you guys really, the lab was developed and kind of hit the ground running. I mean, the throwing program's always there at the facility, but this is when the first time where all the technology was introduced and all that good stuff. So looking back this past winter, what was your overall thoughts on the program? Where do you think you guys did well? And what maybe improvements or enhancements are you guys looking to move forward with in the upcoming years?
I think that the technology was big for us. I think incorporating Rapsodo in and really, having the TVs where we could give instant feedback, where we can kind of show kids and, explain exactly what's going on. You had mentioned earlier, Coach Gribbin is now Driveline certified. And, I've learned a lot just from him and just from understanding the numbers, where it's not just about velocity. People think the Rapsodos, it's the same as a radar gun. It's not even remotely close to the same as a radar gun. You could learn so much about what you're doing with your arm, how the ball comes out of your hand. Are you cutting it? Are you spinning it? Is it tight? Is it, there's so much knowledge that, even in my career, it didn't exist. So I think as good coaches, you're always trying to learn. You're always trying to get better. And I think that's what we're trying to do is, we keep learning and we keep giving as much feedback to these kids as we can. And, hopefully with everything we give them, it could help them out at something with the game, whether it's an off-speed pitch, whether it's fastball velocity, whether it's, the mental aspect. So, we had always been there, but I think now we're really trying to create a name and a program and something where kids can feel comfortable that they're going to have guys who are going to give them attention, guys who are going to not just hand them a random routine and say, go do your own thing. We want them to ask us questions. We want them to understand what they're doing. So that's what I think that, we do a good job at. And I think that's what we're going to continue to try to get better at. We said earlier with the mental side of the game, we're always looking to incorporate new things. That's why we do this. We're talking to different pitching coaches, different players. We're constantly trying to pick people's brains. We're constantly trying to learn new things. From our interviews, Billy said he's constantly changing grips or working on grips. And I mean, there's so many things as a pitcher that you can learn and change. And that's the idea of this channel and this outlet that we're doing, and also what we do at the lab.
To piggyback on that, I know you said what are our plans. Our plans are to keep building this, obviously, to keep getting more kids in, and it's not just for us, it's for them, because obviously I'm a little biased because this is our baby, but it works, and we want kids to come in and get helped. And I think the big thing for us now is not just to stay at in the lab. I think that is to take the lab to other places, and we've been doing that a little bit. But I think that's the way to go, to help more people, because I know it's hard to get to one place, to get all your people to one place. So instead of getting, your 12 to 20 pitchers to us, we'll get our 4 to 6 coaches to you, and, bring our radar guns, our Rapsodo, our video, all that stuff. And if we're able to do that, I think that more kids are going to be able to get help, and I think that the lab is going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just piggyback real quick. What John said is I'm a non-pitcher, never really had the desire to learn pitching, and spending time with these guys in the lab, hearing them talk to the students and even breaking down numbers to me, it's amazing how attention to detail you can be to a slight change of moving your thumb placement or your pointer finger somewhere can make such a difference in a positive way. Not always a positive way, but you'll figure out if it's a positive way or not by what you see in the numbers. So it's truly remarkable what you guys are doing. For anyone interested, check these guys out on Instagram, Twitter. They started the YouTube channel. You can find them, the Lab at Gamers. They're putting out good content. Like you said, good sit downs. We're talking to a lot of good baseball minds and specifically pitchers' minds. So definitely check it out. There's going to be plenty of content coming that's already posted and going to be coming in the upcoming weeks. So John and John, thank you for your time tonight. Look forward to talking to you guys more in the future.